Moving on to Plymouth seemed to give this journey its legs a bit, probably in large part due to it being the first new location after officially initiating things. It was a beautiful area. The campground swept me away to a place I'd always dreamt of, a camp right out of a book I'd read as a child. It was a setting where I felt comfortable letting Munchkin out to explore on his own a bit. That was beneficial since I had to leave him alone for some long stretches while I went out to explore on my own. My first excursion was to Martha's Vineyard. I only spent a few hours there because I didn't have a car to explore the island and it was cold and windy. But I did get a sense of the island by walking around the little settlements and some of the surrounding neighborhood. I had lunch in a waterfront restaurant and had what would not end up being the last sense of pressure to have local fare, because where else can you get fresh seafood except close to the docks where they're brought in? I thought I couldn't go wrong having scallops from the bay. Sadly, they were battered and fried, so I had to pass. I did at least have some fish, so I felt a little more respectful of where I was than if I'd had a burger. I did find a couple of things there I was happy to get as souvenirs of my time there, but I felt no need to stay longer once the wind was cutting to the bone and I felt I'd done and seen what I came there for. I didn't feel I'd really missed out on much, and from what I had heard, it really is more of a laid-back place to just be rather than a place to experience like you would most tourist attractions. I was not able to make it to Nantucket due to weather limitations, which was a bit of a disappointment, but I can find my way there at some point. The second excursion was into the historic downtown district of Plymouth. It fully delivered on what I expected to see. Quaint old buildings, a bustling port, and picturesque waterfront views. I had lunch with a former colleague who knew me just as my professional life was getting its legs. He again validated the potential he saw then and reassured me in this path I've chosen. He told me about the demographics and dynamics of the town and how it has been changing, how after 400 years there is a significant shift in the makeup of the community and the drive for development. It reminded me of something Steinbeck wrote in 1960 that seems to have foretold what is unfolding here. The new American finds his challenge and his love in traffic-choked streets, skies nested in smog, choking with the acids of industry, the screech of rubber, and houses leashed in against one another while the townlets wither a time and die. And this, as I have found, is as true in Texas as in Maine. This is not offered in criticism, only as an observation. I am sure that, as all pendulums reverse their swing, so eventually will the swollen cities rupture like dehiscent wombs and disperse their children back to the countryside. This prophecy is underwritten by the tendency of the rich to do this already. Where the rich lead, the poor will follow, or try to. The only thing I would note is that even having left the cities, seeking out the countryside, these Americans did not leave behind the challenge and love of city characteristics he described. They go back to these townlets with their need for the comforts and convenience of technology and commerce and options with them. They bring big box stores and cars and restaurants and the busyness of life they had where they were. That is what my friend was describing and lamenting about how Plymouth was changing. But it isn't just there. I've seen it in every area I've traveled. I've heard about it in other locations where friends and family are feeling their towns groan under the weight of change. People, places, and things evolve as a matter of course, as a matter of existence, and that is not a bad thing. I think it's change for the sake of change that causes us to panic and resist. Materials break down over time and have to be replaced. People's needs shift and they have to move on. Ideas and ideals no longer fit the shape of reality and have to be adjusted. But that doesn't mean scrapping what works because there is something shiny and new that catches our attention. Steinbeck reflected, our treasured and nostalgic picture of the village store, the Cracker Barrel store where an informed yeomanry gather to express opinion and formulate the national character, is very rapidly disappearing. People who once held fortresses against wind and weather, against scourges of frost and drought and insect enemies, now cluster against the busy breast of the big town. It strikes me that the longing for a simpler, more unified time is not something unique to us in this current decade. We as humans yearn for what was with each stage of growth, and have been since the beginning of our communal life, and will until humanity ends. And even then, whatever remains may call out for a time gone by. We have this unique and paradoxical gift for holding both distorted reflections of the past and blind ambitions for the future. I think that is especially true for Americans, and why Steinbeck believed nearly every American hungers to move. We are never more happy than when we are looking in one direction or another, aiming to go there, and we are woefully dissatisfied with seeing where we are and content with staying put. And yet it too will change if we just allow for it.